Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. I am your one and only host, Angela Schultz. I have been slowly sharing with you how we became a family and all of the crazy that came along with it. So, today I'd like to continue where I left off. Once Tony and I moved in together. Okay, I'm going to rephrase that because this man still claims he never lived there. Once Tony stayed overnight every single night, our relationship grew even more than it already had. We had our moments. Oh, we certainly fucking did. But what couple doesn't? My favorite argument that happened while we were first living together was the night Tony decided to take a huge ass blanket and turn it into a freaking hobo bag. He threw a bunch of clothes that were still on hangers into this blanket and tied it all up. He was moving out, he said. He was obviously a little Irished out. Or drunk. But we lived in a town where they changed the name to New Dublin for an entire week around St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to stick with Irished out, alright? Tony had just blanketed up all of his nice clothes that he never even wore, and he was leaving me. He kept trying to tell me that I called the cops on him to get him in trouble, but I honestly had no clue what the hell he was talking about. After things calmed down between him and I, he laid in bed and passed the hell out. Hobo bag still in the middle of the living room floor, all tied up with his fancy clothes he never wore, shoes still on his feet. He was still wearing his clothes, for crying out loud. I stared at him laying on that bed and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to sleep also. This can wait until tomorrow. So the next morning came rolling around and Tony explained to me what happened the night before. So he had fallen asleep in his car that was in the parking lot across the street from us. A cop had saw him sleeping in there and tapped on the driver's side window. Tony woke up to the cop, and the cop told him he couldn't sleep in his car and he needed to find a ride home. Tony, being all Irished out at the time, thought that I called the cops on him because I had left the bar before he did that night. And because he thought that I called the cops on him, he decided he was done. He was done with us. Well, honey, I never called the cops. And obviously, he wasn't done with us either because I'm still here to talk about it. Watching Tony untie his makeshift hobo bag and see all those clothes he put in there was fucking hilarious. I could no longer be mad at this man anymore. Now, another one of my favorite moments that we made as a couple was when we managed to help our neighbor out. I like to think of it like that anyways. Tony and I didn't have our children every other weekend. So that meant every other weekend we got to act like a couple of teenagers in love. So we would mess around anytime and anywhere. Added bonus, I didn't have to try to be quiet. Hey, I am not quiet during the day, so why should I have to be quiet at night? I'm just going to throw that out there. Enjoy that shit, you know? It was a beautiful day out, and so that day I decided to open up all the windows to get some fresh air flowing throughout the house. Tony and I started messing around, which then led to some sexy time. We didn't realize that the neighbor was actually having a rummage sale that day until after we entertained whomever stopped by to check that rummage sale out. I honestly think we may have increased the neighbor's sales that day only because the amount of people that were in a grouped area near our window. If they didn't see us, I know they sure the hell heard us. I have no shame in that. I mean, consider it community service. Since we moved there, I was spending way too much time and money driving to my job. I knew I needed to start looking for a job that was closer to our place. I just didn't realize how fast I was going to have to be looking for a job. One day, soon after we moved, I walked into the truck stop I worked at and was told I needed to go to the main office. Going to the main office usually meant I did something wrong. Well, I mean, for me anyways. It might be different for other people, but for me, it was always, you talk too much. Go figure. While I'm walking to that office, I'm trying to figure out what I actually did. I mean, I knew I was punching in late for work more days than I should have, but whenever that happened, I always went to my boss, and he would always say the same thing. It's all good. I was also talking about possibly looking for a different job to some of my other coworkers, so I thought maybe that was it. They were just going to talk to me about that. Well, my boss sat me down, and he told me that a third shift coworker, now I don't want to throw any names out there, but Sandy, oh shit. Anyway, third shift coworker Sandy, saw two older men come in a few times a week for just coffee. They would ask for me to serve them, and if I wasn't there, they would leave the truck stop. They wouldn't get anything. Third shift coworker Sandy saw that as a problem. The night she saw me receive a large tip from these men was the night she thought she knew what was going on. I mean, she just knew it. According to Sandy, did it again. I mean, third shift coworker, I could only receive a tip like that by being a lot lizard. For those of you who do not know what a lot lizard is, it's a term for a prostitute that frequents truck stops, and they tend to walk from truck to truck, randomly knocking on the driver's doors to see if they wanted a good time for a good price. What the fuck? They honestly thought that was true? This had to be a joke. I laughed so hard until I realized my boss wasn't laughing with me. And then I was looking around for TV cameras like, this is a joke. I even asked him, are you being serious? Then I got super pissed off. I reminded my asshole boss that there were cameras literally in every single fucking corner of that place. I was surprised they weren't even in the bathroom, to be honest. If they thought I was doing something like that, they could have come to me and asked me, or better yet, watch all the footage from the cameras that were right there and all over the place. Well, I was told they did look. Well, then you would see I never went past the smoking area. I never even went near an 18-wheeler. I tried explaining to my boss that those older men were once afraid of actually stopping at our truck stop because they honestly heard some bad reviews from other truckers. But they decided to give our truck stop a chance. I just so happened to be the waitress that they had that day, and they were impressed with how I treated them. I went out of my way that day, and I scrubbed their coffee mugs like hell before running them through our kitchen dishwasher a few times. Because honestly, I could not put coffee in their mugs. They were disgusting. If you guys are actually listening to this, I am sorry, but your cups were fucking disgusting. There was dirt on the outside and in the inside. Not to mention, there was mold on the lid of where they were actually drinking. These men could have got sick. So these two men were so thankful that I even went out of my way to do that because I didn't have to. I was serving them coffee from our restaurant mugs. I took their personal mugs and I washed them. They were so glad they stopped by. They even told me they hoped to see me again. And after that positive experience they had, they started actually fueling their semis up there a couple times a week and coming inside to get some fresh coffee from me. Also, that huge tip that was given to me was because the two men knew I just moved and it was a gift of appreciation. Plus, they didn't have any more family to spoil. These men saw me as a daughter because literally for weeks, they would come in for a couple times a week and we had talks. I would sit, if I wasn't busy with something else, I would do all of our rolling the silverware up and I would have conversations with them. They saw me as a daughter. I couldn't believe third shift bitch Sandy had the nerve to accuse me of something like that. We all knew she was jealous of everyone else because, well, we got more customers, resulting in more tips. But this was childish and pathetic. I mean, come on, Sandy, you're 50 years old. So I honestly will never understand. All of this didn't matter, though. Even after explaining everything, I was let go. because I punched in too late too many times. But the boss said it was all good. So what the hell? And when I told him you said it was all good, he goes, well, it was all good for me, but not for the company. And then he slipped me some paperwork that I was supposed to sign. I looked at it for a little bit. And then I looked at him and I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I stood up, told him to fuck off. I told him I was going to quit anyways, and then I flipped him off, and then I also reminded him that I hoped that corporate would find out that he was drinking on the job and he was a drunk asshole. I stormed out of there, drove home. I had a pity party for a few minutes there. Fun fact. I love giving fun facts. You can ask my kids. The third shift coworker named Sandy, that was around 50, was fired soon after I was. Do you want to know why? I'll let you guess first. Did you get it? Oh, it was because she was a lot lizard. Yeah. Oh, she was accusing me and she was doing it the whole time. Honestly, she must have gotten jealous that I didn't have to do what she did for a good tip. But that's just my opinion. Oh, and my asshole boss? Yeah, he was fired too. I guess he showed up to work drunk a few too many times, you know? Karma is a bitch. I just want to say that because I've seen it happen many times. Thank you, karma. Then every once in a while, this amazing universe gives me just enough luck. Just enough to get by. With that being said, I was able to find a job that was not only closer to our new place, but also paid a hell of a lot more an hour. My new job was a third shift position, so I had many concerns running through my head. How was I going to stay awake? How were my children going to handle me leaving before bedtime? How was I going to be sleeping? But when you're a mother, all of those didn't matter. My need to support my children outweighed everything I was thinking in my head. I just needed to make a plan and hopefully watch all the pieces fall into place. And honestly, that's exactly what happened. School was just starting up, so that meant my daughter was going to first grade. Couldn't believe that. And my twin boys were starting kindergarten. My schedule at work made it possible for me to get home right after work and wake my children up, get them ready for school, and I was able to drop them off. I was even able to pick them up. I just needed to figure out how I was going to get some rest while having my 4-year-old son Garrett at home with me. Now, Garrett was a pretty good kid. He was very shy, and he stayed to himself more than anything. So when Tony made the suggestion to keep Garrett home with me when I was trying to sleep, I thought I'd try it out, but if it didn't work out, then I'd have to find a different solution. But I was willing to try it. To this day, Garrett still makes comments about how that year of staying home was the best years of his life, because he got to go to his favorite gas station every single morning after we dropped the kids off, and he got his usual. His usual consisted of 2 hot dogs, just a bun and a hot dog, nothing else, chips, chocolate or strawberry milk, sometimes I'd mix a little both, a donut or 2, sometimes a bug juice, bottle of water, and occasionally he'd get some cookies. Then he got to watch his favorite show, Ben 10, all day, uninterrupted, while sitting next to me as I slept until it was time to wake up and pick the other kids up from school. I had a ton of guilt in the beginning of this, but once time went by, I was happy to see it all worked out for the most part. But there were just 3 important pieces to our family puzzle that were still missing. Tony's 3 children. Jordan, he was 9 years old at the time. Peyton, she was 4 going on 5. And Shelby, she was 2 going on 3. I never thought it was possible to love another child as much as I loved my own. I swear. I was worried about that. But that all disappeared the minute I met Tony's children. They were so easy to fall in love with. Shelby being the youngest was still in diapers and had this cute, squeaky little voice, and she followed her big brother around everywhere he went. Peyton, she was super shy, but had a smile that could light up the world and a heart of gold. And Jordan, he was a storyteller. His stories were super crazy and totally unbelievable. Like, he really did see a cougar under that car. You just need to ask my mom. Oh my gosh. Tony and I were kind of scared to have our children all together because, well, let's be frank, who in their right mind wants to have seven children in one house? We were hoping they would get along and like each other. The first time they met, all of my fears started to go away slowly. I could not believe it. It was as if our children knew each other for years. They just came trickling in the door. Tony's kids came trickling in the door, and my kids started hugging, and they talked like they were best friends. I could not believe it. I wasn't sure what I was witnessing, but I didn't want to question it because it was the best outcome, and I don't get a lot of those. After our first visit was over with the children, I was excited to see what was in store for us as a whole. Tony and I decided one day to take all 7 children to Wild Air. Now, that was a place for kids that was full of bounce houses. We needed them to bounce their little hearts out, honestly, because there was so much energy in all those little kids. Once we made it to Wild Air, our children ran in, and Tony and I got to sit down and rest. Being responsible for 7 children is not for the weak. I promise you that. I'm surprised I'm alive. Maybe that's why I went to the psych ward. We'll never know. Now, it's even harder when you don't have enough room for them to play. Because they do have all that energy, and then they feed off of each other. The energy is just, My son, Matthew, was overly excited about Wild Air. More so than the other kids. He asked me every other minute on the way there, while we were there, everything, if he could bounce the whole time we were there. Yes, Matthew, we are at a bounce house place. Bounce. You need to bounce everywhere. After a while, he came up to Tony and I as we were sitting on the bench, and he asked if he could show us a trick. That scared me. Whenever Matthew comes up to me and asks me something like that, be scared. Say no. But he went and he wanted to show us a trick. As he was doing the trick, a girl walked past at the worst time. I saw it all happening in my head, but it was too late, and what happened so fast. Matthew's body came bouncing back from the bounce house arch that he was hanging on, and he hit the girl in the freaking head with his entire body. The girl, like a savage, just stared at Matthew and walked away. I could not believe she was still standing up. I was surprised she didn't grab her head. I was like, where are your parents? Thank God they're not around. It was nuts. I jumped up and tried to get Matthew to stop because, honestly, he thought this was the freaking cat's pajamas, and he began to try to do it all over again, only this time on purpose. That's when Tony and I decided we needed to get the hell out of here. We got all of our children in that vehicle, and Tony started to drive us home. We didn't make it too far home before we saw some cop lights right behind us. That startled the kids. Tony looked down at the dashboard, and he looks over at me and he's like, I wasn't speeding, so we didn't understand what was going on. The children are now scared. All scared. They thought something was wrong. So did I. I was trying to calm them down, but inside I'm like, what the hell? We pulled over to the side of the road, and Tony rolled his window down. The cops walked up to the open window, looked right at me, and asked if there was an Angela Carey in the vehicle. My heart literally jumped to my throat. I told the cop that I was Angela and that the last name Carey used to be my married name. However, I was divorced, so I was going by my maiden name. Next thing I know, there was a different officer on my side of the vehicle telling me I needed to get out of the vehicle. What the fuck? The cop pulled me away from our vehicle and told me there was a warrant out for my arrest. What? I just stared at him in disbelief. I didn't understand. Did I hear him right? I could feel my blood just like drain right out of my body. How did I have a warrant? I mean, I didn't even do anything wrong. Nothing was making sense at this point. He told me I was actually under arrest because of the warrant and I needed to go to the police station. The cops said he couldn't arrest me in front of my children. So I was thinking he was going to take me to the back of the vehicle or something, but no, instead he didn't want to scare them. He said, I trust that you guys are going to follow me, and if you don't, I have another officer behind me. So we followed the cop to the police station, and I thank the cop, honestly, for not arresting me in front of them. But the drive to that police station felt like it took forever. I didn't know, honestly, what was going on. I could not afford to be arrested. I didn't want to have my kids go through that. I didn't even know what I did wrong. Honestly. I thought for a second there was because I was accused of being a lot lizard, to be fair. I didn't know. Once I got there, the cop handed me a piece of paper that had photocopies of checks written on it. All of them were written out by my ex-husband. The checks he used were from an account that we closed when we were divorced. I asked why I had the warrant out for this, and the cops told me it was because on the top of the checks, it had my name and my ex's name on it. The cop that did arrest me, or kind of arrest me, like brought me in there, saw that it wasn't written by me or signed by me. And he truly didn't want to scare the kids. I was so thankful he was a family man and understood. So he wasn't going to arrest me, but he did advise me to go to the town that these checks were written out to and pay those fines because he wasn't getting rid of the warrant. So no matter what, if he didn't arrest me there, he saw why I was getting arrested. He didn't think it was right, but he was going to let me go. If I paid those fines, great. But if I didn't, there was still that warrant out on me. So he was still like going to be in the clear, you know? Once so I walked out of that police station so pissed off. My ex knew that account was closed when we finalized our divorce. What did I don't understand. Why was he screwing me over? But it scared the shit out of he scared the shit out of my children. But there was nothing that was going to happen. I needed to pay this fine or I was going to jail. It was as simple as that. Jail was not an option for me that I even wanted to entertain. So I had to pay it all. I just needed to do it before I got myself pulled over again. Monday morning came around and I didn't waste one freaking minute. I drove to the town where the warrant was issued and I paid the fines off so that this could be done and over with. Once I paid the fines, they told me that I was free to go. I did question them on why my ex didn't get in trouble. I mean, he was the one that did this in the first place. The answer was, I got caught first. Well, thank you, universe. Thank you. I left that building with everything taken care of and no more having to worry about a warrant. I went to work that night, and honestly, I was mentally exhausted from the whole situation. But I just needed to plug away, get shit done, and go home. My shift ended. I went home, got my children to school, and went to the gas station for the Garrett run, I called it. I had to, get him all set up for the big day of watching Ben 10 and sitting by me while I slept. That day, Garrett was really getting into his show, making it even harder for me to fall asleep. I needed to get some rest because I wouldn't honestly make it through work in the condition I was in. So I told Garrett I was going to lay in bed. My bedroom was right off of the living room, so it wasn't like a huge deal. I was still like right there. And I left my door open. He could see me, and he wasn't even scared. I also told him the same thing that I did every single day. I would wake up when my phone went off, unless he woke me up because he needed something. He always did what he was told. Well, for the most part. Due to watching Ben 10 all the time, Garrett thought that he was an alien and everyone else was a human. I thought it was kind of cute, so I went along with it. He literally called everyone human. He promised me he would eat his food and be good. So I dozed off in bed as I watched him act like a little alien. And the next thing I knew, there was this bright ass light shining in my face and a very loud and deep voice yelling my name. I woke up as confused as fuck. Like, what? I was staring at a cop in my bedroom, right above me. Was I dreaming? I was dreaming this? I don't understand. Why was there a cop in my room? I sat up slowly and asked what was going on. He explained to me that Garrett let him in the house and he wanted to make sure I was okay because I didn't answer when he called my name when he was by the door. He was only there to give me a receipt for the paid fines. And he also wanted to show me that the warrant was taken care of. Are you fucking kidding me? They couldn't do that when I was at the building? They had to do it, like, they had to show up to my house? Why couldn't they do that before? And I would have never had, that would never happen. But it did. So whatever, I guess. I thanked the cop, and I walked him to the door. As soon as that door shut, and I watched the cop enter his car, I looked over at Garrett and I asked him, why didn't you wake me up? I did, Mommy. I said, Mom, there's a human at the door. What the hell do you say to that? Like, what do you say to that? I just looked at him for a second. I giggled and I went and sat down on the couch with my little alien. What else could you do? Now, some time had passed after the Wild Air event and everything that followed with it. And our children seemed to be doing great together. More importantly, Tony and I were still surviving everything. It wasn't until our children heard the song Chicken Fried by the Zac Brown Band that I actually knew Tony and I were officially becoming a family of 9. That 4 minutes and 32 seconds was nothing short of amazing. That song started and all of our children started dancing all over the place. Most of them were on the freaking coffee table. They're all giggling and dancing around together and trying like hell to sing the lyrics that they didn't even know. In that 4 minutes and 32 seconds, I saw each child bond together as one unit. There was no going back after that. Chicken Fried actually became our family song that night. Now, I would love to say it was smooth sailing from that moment on, but it wasn't. And that's okay, that's life. There were many obstacles we had to get through while living in that house. I had to learn how to cook for what felt like an army. With a ton of growing children to feed, I honestly felt like I was more of a lunch lady than a mom. Okay, I am totally blowing smoke right up your ass. I still to this day feel like I am the lunch lady living in lunch lady land. Parenting children that aren't yours is also very tricky too. Oh, it is so tricky. I'm still having issues. Oh, help me. Either way, it is hard to parent your own children, honestly. It's especially hard when one person in the relationship is a good cop and one is the bad cop. This whole parenting together thing is still tough on us to this day. We just can't let any of that, the problems the children are going through or the problems they are making get in the middle of our relationship that we have together. Because that's the big thing. And I think that's why a lot of people actually get divorced and have problems. As they focus and let all of that, from the kids and all the fighting and everything, especially if you're a blended family like we are, the parents will be like, well, my kid, your kid, this and that. And then it gets into the middle of your marriage. And you can't let that happen. You have to just push together, even if you disagree. There's many times where I'm like, babe, honestly, why? Why are you letting it? And he's like, just back off. And it would annoy me. But once I started actually backing off, I was like, all right, well, I know I'm going to go to bed tonight and we're going to be smiling and having, at each other and loving each other and not fighting. So I would rather that. So that's my big advice. Don't let the kids' problems that you're having or your parenting styles get in the middle of your relationship. Stay strong together. You need to be a strong unit. in order to be strong parents. Now, I might be biased on this, but the very best part of that red house was the space right in front of our bedroom doorway. That was the spot that Tony got down on one knee and asked me to be his wife. I may have thrown a few hints and ideas of getting married a few times out there. But, I mean, am I really hinting around, though, if I'm just singing along to a song while looking at him? I sing all the time in the vehicle. That doesn't make any difference. I mean, like, yeah, the song said something like, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. I just added a few extra words in there sometimes, like, if you like it, then you should put a size 10 ring on it. Or, if you like it, then you should put a princess cut ring on it. I don't know. I never thought that was a big deal. I wasn't hinting, really. I was just singing a song. The song was on the radio, so whatever. Whatever. I was just singing along and adding lib. Just saying. He tells everyone I forced him into marrying him. I want to be very clear here. If you knew this man, you could never force him to do anything unless he absolutely wanted to. I try to force him to do shit all the time. Nope, not happening. And I'm his person. Either way, February 12th of 2010, I went from his girlfriend to his fiancé. We may have only lived in that house for 1 year, but that red house, made out of wood, bricks, and cement with its uneven floors, steep steps, and those mice that loved to eat Tony's ass out. I know, man. Loved to eat Tony's ass out of his underwear. Turned our two separate families into one blended family of 9. That house was not perfect by any means, but neither are we. And it was the beginning of us. So I would like to say it was the house that built us. Thank you for tuning in and letting me share our lives with you. Stay tuned weekly for more episodes. If you haven't already, you want to go and check out my Facebook page on Chaotic Harmony and let me know what you think of this. Do this entire world a favor. Go out of your comfort zone. I promise you, you will like it. Go out of your comfort zone, embrace your weird side, and make normal feel boring. Bye.